Welcome to Odds and Ends. Our guest tonight is the multi-instrumentalist Carol Sudhalter. She has performed with the likes of Sarah McLaughler, Etta Jones, Chico Freeman, Jimmy McGriff, Delvey Jackson, and has played in renowned New York City jazz clubs as well as domestic Italian and British jazz festivals. Since 2016, Carol Sudhalter has led the monthly Louis Armstrong Legacy Jazz Jam at the prestigious Flushing Town Hall, which is supported in part by the Louis Armstrong Educational Foundation. Tonight, we're going to explore her life, her career, and one of her instruments of choice, the saxophone, and several of the iconic musicians who have helped the saxophone to evolve and become a staple in the world of jazz. So stay tuned. Good evening, everyone, to Odds and Ends. Tonight I'm going to be conversing with my friend and colleague, a woman that I deeply respect, Carol Sudhalter, who is a multi-instrumentalist playing saxophone, flute, piano, etc. So, Carol, where are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Clyde. Thank you very much. I've been
wanting to do this for a long time. And so finally, here we are. You may have noticed we started the show out with Coleman Hawkins. He was playing his 1939 blockbuster, the solo he did on Body and Soul, which kind of, people say, gave the saxophone a solo voice. There was a realization that a saxophone could be completely a solo voice. Of course, we know that Adolphe Sax invented the saxophone in 1840, a Belgian man, but I don't think he ever dreamed that the saxophone would morph into what it has. I mean, you know, when you deal with Charlie Parker, Jerry Mulligan, Stan Getz, on and on and on. So I want to talk about some of your influences. How did you come to play saxophone? Who influenced you?
I came out of a musical family. My father was a beautiful alto saxophone player, in the style, I would say, of Marcel Muhl, and Frankie Trombauer, very much.
Oh, yeah. Original Dixieland jazz band.
Right. Well, he had a beautiful sound. And I'll tell you one thing really interesting is when he was doing a gig once, you know, back in the 30s or 40s at the Statler Hilton in Boston, somebody sent their card over to him to go to his table. And he was, guess who it was? Pablo Casals.
Wow.
And he told him that he had never heard a saxophone that sounded so much like a string instrument, because he started on violin. So right. That's what happened.
You probably played with great legato tones.
Well, I grew up with that beautiful sound in my ear, that's for sure. And my uncle played the tenor sax, and I have his tenor sax now. And my brother played cornet, and my other brother played saxes. And my grandparents and so forth, you know, back in the old country, they were all composers and everything. So I listened a lot to Chicago style jazz. It's different from other people I know, because right. most people grew up listening more to Coltrane but that's what was played in my family. So Bix Beiderbecke, Frankie Trombauer, you know,
Bix
Ruby Braff.
Very instrumental.
Yeah.
You know, a cornetist with the Paul Whiteman Orchestra.
Yeah, Bobby Hackett.
Sure.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Let me ask you something. Frank West is attributed with really helping to establish the flute as a prominent instrument in jazz.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you listen to him? Was he an influence on you at all?
No, later on, yes, but not in my early years. Definitely. Frank West, and also, you know, Chick Webb had Wayman Carver with him. He was a great flute player, beautiful arpeggios in his improv.
Oh, yeah. Chick Webb had spent all those years at the Savoy Ballroom with Ella Fitzgerald as his featured vocalist.
Yeah, well, he had this great flute player with him, Wayman Carver, who preceded Frank West, was really one of the originals. And those were the early players. I guess we have to consider Herbie Mann as well.
Of course.
But Frank West, definitely. Yeah.
Now, I know that NEA Jazz Master Jimmy Heath adored you and respected you. I've even seen the two of you play together.
I remember that.
At St. Luke.
That was an honor.
Playing solo, near the end of the solo, you came in and started playing, and Jimmy looked over But then as you start playing, he was like, you know how Jimmy was when
That's
the groove
I
and
can't
swinging, you see that smile.
I
So I
can't
know he
believe
respected you.
I can't believe you remember that moment
I
because
was there. I was like, whoa.
Gary, the engineer,
I
remember
think he didn't
Gary?
know you were going to come out and solo right behind him.
Well, Gary, the engineer, just pushed me on stage. He said, "Come on, get out there and play." And so I did. And after that, for a little while, Jimmy always called me Red Suit. I had a red suit on, and he called me Red Suit. Hey, Red Suit.
Yeah. But did he influence you at all? Do you ever listen to him, his music?
Sure. And I had a long period of listening to Dexter as an adult. Dexter
Dexter Gordon.
and Lucky Thompson influenced me a
Ooh, yeah,
lot.
sure.
Oh my God. I'm just in
Hmm.
love with him. And Sonny, of course.
Right. Now, you know,
And
New York had a litany at one point of really great women who played saxophone, like Lisa Perot from Australia, Cheryl
wow.
Cassidy, who played with Jimmy Heath and the Queen Jazz Orchestra,
Yeah,
Rosetta
Cheryl. Yeah.
Dixon, Lakeisha Benjamin, and Stephanie Chow and Grace Kelly.
Yeah. And
And
there's several more.
yeah, and you also belong in that same bunch. You all are excellent musicians.
Well,
I've come, I have come
they're
to
all,
realize, which I tell people, I say that great music is great music. It's great music and art is not measured by age or gender. Great art, no matter what the gender or age, it is what it is. I would never tell a young precocious player like Joey Alexander or Jules Rodriguez, hey, you play really good for a young guy. I would never tell a woman, you play pretty good for a woman. That's so sexist.
no, they would
But
say to me, they used to say to me, "You sound like a guy." And,
the matter is, I have seen many women, I know you know that too. I've seen many women that can play men under the table.
that's true.
So
And
men need
also
to be quiet and just take care of their own art. You know what I'm saying?
in that old generation, I knew people that, in my generation, which was the early, I knew people that would try to convince you that women were not, the physiognomy of a woman was not adapted to playing the trumpet or the sax. And they thought they could prove that. So, it just gives you an idea of how crazy
Well,
that
you
stuff
know,
is.
Melba Liston and other people have
Yeah,
dispelled all of that.
yeah,
And now we live in a digital age. Jazz has been commodified. It is part of pedagogy in most universities around the world. So people have a greater ability to tap into the music. Where before, many years ago, Jimmy Heath, Barry Harris used to tell me jazz was more like an oral tradition. They would pass down different experiments.
yeah,
You
interesting.
know, there was a time I understand when you went to a college, if you were caught practicing jazz in the practice rooms, you would be warned or scolded. You know, if you're caught, you're going to be expelled. But now, jazz is ubiquitous; it's all over the world.
This it
Although
is.
I would say, and I think you might think this, Master Jimmy Heath and Barry Harris said, "I think that pedagogy has complicated it." I said, "What do you mean?
Yeah,
Complicated the method to play jazz?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?"
yeah,
He said, "Well, now we have the Lydian flat seven scale, the Locrian sharp nine scale, you know,
I
the
know.
major minor." And he said it's too much information
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
thinking of. He said when we solo, we don't think like that.
yeah.
We come from a different point.
Right.
So I noticed that your solos are very sophisticated, very beautiful. You're very cognizant of the changes. Do you think that way? How do you think? Or do you think at all? Do you just feel? I think the ultimate is to just feel and respond in the moment. What do you do?
It's both. I mean, when I studied with Big Nick Nicholas, and he insisted that I know the lyrics to everything I played, just like Dexter felt that way too. And in fact, they say that Dexter stopped in the middle of a tune and stopped playing because he said, I forgot the lyrics, so I can't play.
Mm,
So Big Nick, I wanted that expression, the color and the poetry. And he taught me that to listen, to think about the lyrics. And so that's one thing that I think about a lot. And I do think about the changes, but not in what I would consider a sophisticated way. very simplistic way, but kind of geometric, like where they go. I think a lot about melodies and individual notes and how beautifully placed they are. I think a lot about the melodic aspect.
Well, I would say this too. You see this?
Mhm.
I
That's the
think the
key.
key is to learn the proper rudiments and the diatonic elements of music and your arpeggios, and with that you can then create music. But I always meditate on what I said earlier. Great art is great art, no matter what the age or the gender that has created it. Good music is good music, no matter who plays it.
I still have my notebook from my studies with Big Nick, and he had me write things down, like long, long quotes, from a great opera singer or something like that.
Sure, sure. Now I know also you have been the host of a monthly jazz jam at the prestigious Flushing Town Hall, which is sponsored by the Louis Armstrong Educational Foundation. And I think that's been going on successfully about 10 years now. Am I correct?
I think so, yeah, 10 or 11 years. I think it's 10. And I think they passed the 10th anniversary. And I have been doing it for 6 years, and it's a huge honor. I love it. And it's a perfect fit because it's something I love the music. I love teaching. I love encouraging, new players. And I love to organize. It's
And
like
you
in
were
my
Queen's
blood.
resident, so you're part of the Queen's jazz legacy.
I just love that. I'm so thrilled about that beautiful assignment. Just love it.
Now, have you ever gone yourself to the Louis Armstrong House and Museum just to?
Sure, many times, yeah,
Okay,
many times, but not recently. I heard there were some changes in the new house across the street and what. I haven't seen that.
right.
But can I just say something about the jam? What we have coming
Well, I was
up?
going to ask you more about that.
Oh, sure. No, I'll wait
Yeah.
then.
Go ahead. Say what you want to say.
Oh, okay. So after a number of years, we decided that the jam should culminate, in a way of thanking some of the players by choosing 10 players out of all the ones that had been coming regularly to have an all-star concert of their own. And so we did this in 2019.
Where?
We picked, we had the house rhythm section with me and Joe Tranquina, Eric Lemon, and Scott Newman. And we played for them. And these 10 people came and gave a concert, each picked 2 tunes of their own. And now, coming up July 16th, we're going to have the second one. We had to skip because of the pandemic. So we're going to have the second All-Star Jam.
Now, is this happening at Flushing Town Hall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
At 7:30. So probably there's going to be a little cocktail hour first and all that. But
What is the rhythm section that you have monthly that comes out as the rhythm section for the Jazz Jam? Who are the players?
okay, Joe Vincent Tranquina on piano, Eric Lemon on bass. He's a great Queens bass.
Love him.
He's very well versed in Queens jazz history.
Oh, yeah.
And he's even, when he was a child, he even went to Basie's house. Ooh. And Scott Newman on drums.
Uh-huh.
And we also had for a while the wonderful Sylvia Cuenca, and she's out of town now. But yeah, she was a great player as well. But now it's Scott Newman, and so that's the rhythm section, and we were able to make it every month.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you, I guess, come to understand the rudiments of jazz improvisation? Because I think that is at the heart of jazz. Someone being able to improvise and freely and at will play through the changes, and decide, do you want to take it outside? Do you want to stay inside? Do you want to play and add dissonance, tension? How did you learn all that stuff? Is it a process of experimentation?
I would say there's still a lot that I don't know, but I knew, for example, Bix's solos by heart when I was 5. Wow. I could sing them because that's what I heard in my house. And those are some really beautiful solos. So I could hear solos that I would like to play before I played an instrument. Because when I grew up, I was playing piano, but not like improvising. I was learning piano, Rachmaninoff and Chopin. And all. Sure. And then I joined a choir, and in high school and college, I joined a glee club. And in there, I just heard, I was alto, so I heard the beautiful alto harmonies. And that was very enriching too, in hearing what the chords are doing.
Right.
And then I started playing flute before I started saxophone. I started
Really?
flute late when I was
That's
20.
interesting. Hmm.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
just, go ahead.
I've noticed that so many saxophonists, they seem to double on flute. Is that because the fingerings are the same?
Yeah, the fingerings and flute, clarinet, and sax are kind of the natural doubles, but it's because the music calls for it. I mean, if you play in a big band, the arrangements in the sax parts usually call for doubles on flute
Right.
and clarinet. So it's and if you play in a Broadway show, forget it. You have to know flute, clarinet, and oboe
Yeah,
besides your saxophone. So the baritone sax usually has the double of bass clarinet.
sure.
So it's not that we do it because it's similar. We do it because it's kind of a little bit required, I would
Yes.
say. But I will say this, it's interesting that in the old days, what I was told is that saxophonists started on the clarinet.
Hmm.
And that made it easier to play the sax because the clarinet is a little bit of a tighter embouchure, if I understand correctly.
Right.
If I'm understanding the subject. I'm
Yeah.
not a very good clarinetist, but so that made it a little bit easier to handle all the saxes. You had a little more versatility that way. If you go from sax to clarinet, I find it a little bit of a challenge.
Now, when you start mentioning baritone, you automatically bring to my mind Jerry Mulligan.
Well, Jerry Mulligan, but don't forget there's, Harry Carney and
Oh,
Cecil
yeah.
Payne,
Sure.
Leo Parker. Leo
Of course.
Parker's great influence for me.
Did you ever listen
I
to his music at all, Jerry? Did you?
sure, Jerry's a beautiful player, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's one sound, and then there's all these other sounds too.
Now,
So
do you need more air? Do you have to blow stronger to play a baritone than an alto, which is a lighter?
it's a good question. I'm not sure I can answer that. It's a little bit heavier on the body, and it's a little heavier to carry around. Maybe the low notes are a little bit more air, but I don't think it's really that much. I think you need a lot of air for all of them. I just don't feel qualified to answer that. I've thought about it a lot, but for
Right.
me, the big difference is that, for example, the fingers, it's a little more clumsy, the baritone, because the fingers are farther apart, and it's quite a bit heavier to carry around. And I will not give it up. I just love it.
Right,
I
right, right.
find it to be so lyrical. For me, it's a very lyrical instrument.
Well, talking about lyrical playing, one of my favorite players that I always loved was Stan Getz.
Oh, definitely. Gorgeous player.
I mean, he opened up the whole world, especially the stuff he did with Antonio Carlos Jobim, Girl from
Oh,
Ipanema. That's a phenomenal.
gorgeous. Gorgeous.
It seems like
Gorgeous.
everything he would play would just be a work of art. It's like amazing.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. And I would say I've seen you play in many, many different situations. It seems like in New York City, you're well known. All the jazz players I know, if I mention your name, they were it rings with respect, professionalism, punctuality, all those things. It's something that you've earned, I'm quite sure, through many, many, many years of playing in different.
Well, thank you for that. I don't know if it's true, but
No, it
thank you
is.
so much.
Would you say at this point in your career as a musician that you have no fear at this point of playing or soloing through any changes that are put in front of you?
No, I
No?
would not say no. No, I think I am more of the school that musicians, we always have some more to learn. That every level we get to opens up the next
Another
level.
vista.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have some gigs coming up in the next few months, very challenging. And I'm
Where?
working
Where are
great.
they?
Well, do you remember the wonderful pianist and composer? He's still alive, but doesn't live in the States anymore, Mickey Tucker.
Sure, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Well, he lives in Australia now, and a piece of his, a composition for jazz orchestra and orchestra, jazz band and orchestra, is being premiered in Indiana. And
Hmm.
I was asked to join a very legendary band. for that in October.
Does the band have a name or orchestra name or something or what?
No, I just know that it's a premiere of his piece, so I don't know how they're going to call the orchestra yet, but it's in Indiana at the university in October. But I'm doing a quartet concert at the Jazz Museum of Harlem Thursday, 2 days from now. Yeah, at 2 o'clock.
My old friend Lauren Schoenberg used to be there. I think he's gone now, right?
Yeah, Lauren, he's around. I see him on Facebook. He's an old friend of mine too.
Yeah, great player. He used to play with, unbelievably, he used to play with Bobby Short.
Yeah, he is a wonderful player, and I like him very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby Short, I believe it. Yeah.
Sure.
Bobby Short used to always play at the Carlisle.
Cafe Carlisle, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he was on Atlantic Records, which was the label that my father had spent like 17, 18 years there. So
right.
You know, he would go to Cafe Carlisle and actually sometimes see the show and talk to Bobby, make sure everything's okay, etc.
Right.
You know.
So they're having a small audience, only 20 people up at the Jazz Museum, but I'm very excited because I have some of my favorite players in the band.
Now I understand there's been 2 books that has been recently out that you are featured in. Could you show us those books and kind of tell us about
sure.
what they're about and the titles?
Let me just say this first. The first book I was ever covered in was Leslie Gorse's Madame Jazz. And the chapter on me was called, I really like this, Carol Sudhalter, a Role Model.
Wow.
So that was, anyway, so there've been several books since then, but here's the latest one. This is by Peter Zimmerman.
The Jazz Masters.
The Jazz Masters Setting the Record Straight. And he gave me a lovely coverage. And it was an interview, and he just mostly let the musicians talk, you know, and asked some questions.
Now, can that book be purchased at Barnes and Noble?
It's on Amazon. I'm not sure about, but the website is thejazzmastersbook.com. You have to add the word book.
Okay.
Jazzmastersbook.com. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, before that, a couple of years before that, Royal Stokes, a wonderful author who's gone now, who left us recently, wrote, this is the second time he had written about me, in this Jazz Reader. W. Royal Stokes, a wonderful author. Okay. And he wrote some very, very nice things. So it's called Jazz, Blues, and Beyond Reader, the essential Royal Stokes. But this Jazz Masters is very nice. And yeah, it's worth getting a copy. It's
looks like a great copy, a great cover, you know?
Yeah, Bobby Porcelli is in it. There's a lot of wonderful people in it. Bucky Pizzarelli, just a lot of great people. Mm-hmm. So that's
great. Anything else happening that you can tell us about in your career?
So I
mean, I know you go to Italy a lot. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, as soon as I feel it's really safe, I'm going to go. Because during the pandemic, it's not going there per se, but I just didn't feel like it was worth taking the risk of going on planes, you know. I had a little trouble with my health since having COVID. So I want to be really strong when I go. And I really miss my friends there because I play with some wonderful musicians over there, just wonderful. Mm-hmm. Vito Di Modugno, he's a great Hammond organist. Okay. And his brother Nando Di Modugno, great guitarist. Wow. And, just so many, just fabulous musicians. So, I
understand you speak Italian as well. Am I correct?
I speak fluently because I used to live there back in 68 and 70. I lived there for 2 years and studied flute, and I got very strong in Italian. And it's like really great language. I love it.
Right.
So I give classes when I'm there, you know, in like English diction for singers. That's one class I give, like a master class, and I give it in Italian. It's really fun.
Now, what about the Jazz Jam at Flushing Town Hall? What kind of people are coming to the Jazz Jam? And I understand now it has opened up more because you have people signing on from other countries and other states. Is that true?
Well, that was true. The virtual aspect was true during the pandemic. But right now, we haven't coordinated it to have the virtual together with the in-person, but we probably will. And we do stream when we do it now. We didn't do that before. We stream all over the world. And so now the people that come Oh.
Yeah. Very cool.
Wow,
Cool.
that was
Very
nice to
cool.
listen back to.
Oh man, that's you. And also, I remember many years ago, you performed in a band called the Super Band at
Right.
Flushing Town Hall, which was an intergenerational band of all or many of the best women in jazz in New
Yeah.
York. You
Yeah.
had, I believe, Kim Clark on bass,
Yeah.
Lessa Rubin vocals, Bertha Hope on piano,
Yeah.
Lakeisha Benjamin
Yeah. She
saxophone,
was there. She was there. Yeah.
also yourself. That's something maybe that should be revisited. And
And
maybe
Cindy Blackman on drums.
right now she's Cindy Blackman Santana. She married
Right.
Carlos Santana.
That's right. That's
I
right.
spoke to her about three months ago.
Yeah.
That was a great band. It was a great concert. Maybe that should be revisited again because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think all of you would have you'd have some new things to say.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
Lakeisha has gone sky to the sky. She's like world famous now.
Well, yeah, Lakeisha Benjamin. She is a little different because not only does she play jazz very well, but I understand she was even like playing hip hop and R&B.
Oh wow. Yeah. I'm not
She kind of has
surprised.
the foot in both worlds.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you play R&B at all yourself? Would you say?
No, I like doo-wop and rhythm and blues very much. I could play a rhythm and blues tune, but not a whole, I'm not a master of it or anything like that.
Right.
I'd have to work at that.
So what are the instruments that you play? Pretty much it's like four. Am I correct?
Well, when I teach, I use also the alto sax, but for the performing, mostly it's tenor sax, baritone sax, and flute.
Okay.
Yeah,
No
but
clarinet. No clarinet now.
well, I teach clarinet, but I don't perform on it
I understand.
because I would have to shed a lot more, and there's just so much time in the day. I have a lot of
Shedding what? On the
shed-
fingerings, you mean, or just the armature?
both.
Okay.
Both. It's a little bit uncomfortable, on the thumbs. Anyway, I've been teaching a long, long time, many decades, and I'm now starting to write my memoirs of music lessons, teaching
Okay.
music lessons. I have a lot of students, and I go house to house. Very interesting.
And do you accept students at all levels?
Yeah.
Intermediate, beginners, advanced?
Well, for example, I mean, if a pianist, well, like for example, I had a clarinet student a few years ago who took lessons for maybe 2 years from me, and then she was at level 5 NISMA. You know the NISMA, right?
Yes.
And I couldn't play the piece, so I got her a teacher who was at that level. So I've done that like maybe 2 or 3 times across my career, just put somebody on the next level with a different teacher when it was beyond what my depth, beyond the depth that I could reach with it.
Right.
So I feel good about that. And yeah, it's pretty much all levels up to where my knowledge, and also I feel that when we teach, we're trying to pass on what we were given. So whatever I was given, I can go up to that level and pass it on.
Sure. And I remember in the past, you and I shared some music. We
Yeah,
played at Flushing Town Hall. It was a concert called Noel, The Story of Christmas.
that's
21
true.
piece orchestra and 60 voices.
That's right.
It was
That's right.
wonderful.
Oh, that
And,
was wonderful.
oh, yeah. And then we also shared together a production of Ain't Misbehavin'.
Haven, yeah,
Matt
that's
Waller.
right. That was wonderful.
And that was super cool too.
Oh boy, that was great. You
So,
played a beautiful, beautiful part.
I'm
Yeah.
quite certain that we have some more music that we will get a chance to share
Oh,
together
good.
before we both leave this planet in some kind of way. We'll create something or find something. And
Yeah.
how is your relationship with Flushing Town Hall? Do you enjoy the staff working with you there? Everybody's treating you nicely and everything?
I love the way they treat me. They're very respectful. I know nothing about the internal politics of Flushing. I'm on the outside, but they're so respectful. And basically my straw boss is Gabrielle Hamilton, and she's very, very well organized, has great ideas, and she always has this wonderful way of just very politely asking me, "Do you mind?" Of things that other people would just say, "Well, this is how we're going to do it." No, what's your opinion about this, Carol? And so I love working with her. She just knows so much about interacting in a discreet and considerate way.
Right.
And I love what the director, Ellen Kodadek, has done with Flushing, because I remember when she came in, I remember everything from the beginning, and she would sit people down. She would take her volunteers and call a meeting of the volunteers and sit them down and what's that word? Like brainstorm with them, pick their brains and
Yes.
say, what do you think about this? What do you think? What's your idea? Anybody make a suggestion about this? And she listened to everyone.
Right.
So that's a sign of very deep wisdom. So I love it. It works to me. It works like a well-oiled machine.
Right. From what I understand, there's no end in sight. I mean, as long as you want to stay there, I'm quite sure they've said they're very happy with you there.
Well, I guess, when we wait long enough in life, things come our way that belong to us, that need to be ours, that we're good at.
Maybe being at Flushing Town Hall and presiding over the monthly jazz jam is just another extension of you teaching music in a different way.
I think it's all connected. Yeah.
Yes, all connected.
Yeah. Because people say, I'm told that I come across very supportive at that jam. And that's the thing in teaching, that you want to be supportive. Otherwise, otherwise it'll give people a bad experience of music,
And they won't come back.
Right. They'll block off from it. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So, this is wonderful to get a chance to chat with you about all these things. And just get it out in the air. And I'm glad you're happy with everything you're doing. And you seem to be resonating happiness, in your spirit, in your body language, etc. And it was just great getting a chance to talk to you.
Well, it was fabulous. I had loved it too.
Yeah, maybe what we'll do, we'll have you come back to Odds and Ends at another time when we have more to share, okay?
That would be wonderful.
In the meantime, I think I'm gonna tune up myself and
Oh
I could play a little
my.
bit. No, this is a
Ah,
saxophone that I put on my wall. It makes no
that's
sound, but it's a
great.
great little piece to have.
That that is marvelous.
Yes. Okay, lady.
All
Miss
right.
Carol Sudhalter, it was wonderful
Thank you,
conversing
Professor
with you,
Bullard.
sharing your life with us and many of your pursuits.
Well, thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Until we meet again, and we will, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for watching this episode of Odds and Ends. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble accounts. And special kudos to Regina Bain, the Executive Director of the Louis Armstrong House and Museum, which is located at 34-56 107th Street in Corona, New York, 11368. And for more information about Carol Sudhalter's monthly jazz jam at Flushing Town Hall, call 718-463-7700, extension 222. Good night and stay bright.